here at Fort Sam Houston with Jackie Davis, and just a historical place, Fort Sam Houston Museum. And Jackie, before we get started, will you tell us a little bit about this picture?
Yes, this is a picture from the end of World War I. This is the soldiers that are the 90th Infantry Division, which was the local reserve unit, or will turn into that, getting their local hometown victory parade. So they made a temporary wooden arch in front of the Alamo, and they got to parade through that here at home.
Jackie, that's the Alamo behind it, but let's find out first, how did Fort Sam Houston originally get started?
Well, how it originally got started was not as Fort Sam Houston, but as the post at San Antonio. And about a month and a half before Texas became officially a state, the Army sent some soldiers out to scout and find a place for a quartermaster depot. They ended up in San Antonio, and the biggest building available that nobody was using was the Alamo. And so the Army started using the Alamo as a quartermaster depot, and then from that all else grew. And so we eventually moved out here. It wasn't until 1890 that we became officially Fort Sam Houston.
We're inside the original fort. Tell us a little bit about this, and what can people find here?
So this is the oldest building on the piece of property that is now called Fort Sam Houston, but of course we've actually been in town since 1845 with those soldiers arriving just before the Mexican War. What we tell here is that story. So we start in 1845 with the arrival of the Army here, and we go chronologically through everything to where we are now. So we don't talk about the Army's wars, we talk about how the Army's wars affect Fort Sam and how Fort Sam has affected them, or have helped out in those. And so that's the story we tell. And so this is the oldest building here, and so this is the most appropriate place to have the museum, is in that oldest building.
So if people want to come visit the museum this summer as a family, how do they do that? Who do they talk to?
Okay, first off, the museum is open to anybody that can get onto Fort Sam Houston. So if you have military ID or a friend that you can bring along that has a military ID, you can come through any of the gates and they can come in with the ID. If you do not have something like that, then you'll need to talk to the people at the Visitors Center, which is the security police people here at Fort Sam. The museum is open Monday through Friday, 10 to 4 right now. We're hoping eventually in the future to have Saturday hours again.
Jackie, I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about the aviation side of Fort Sam.
Well, in 1910, the Army brought their one and only airplane and the pilot they had for it, and they brought it here to Fort Sam Houston to run trials. It was the first time that anybody's military anywhere on the planet owned their own plane and owned their own pilot and flew it. And so we are the birthplace of military aviation, but specifically we are the birthplace of the United States Air Force.
Jackie, could you tell us a little bit about, because obviously we're familiar with Kelly Air Force Base, and who was Kelly?
That would be Lieutenant George Kelly. He was one of the pilots that was here learning how to fly and doing trials. He was flying here, flying a Curtiss, and he was coming in and the plane was broken. And so he is trying to make a safe landing with a broken airplane. And he realizes that he is about to hit tents. There's pictures of the airfield, their airfield such as it was a little later, they're surrounded by tents. And so to avoid doing that, he veers, loses control of his plane. The papers said that he shot straight up in the air 50 feet and then came straight back down. He bounced off of Texas, and he was unconscious, never regained consciousness, and died about 4.5 hours later. So he was our first official military aviation casualty.
So then Kelly Air Force Base was named after an Army pilot? Is that what we're saying?
Yes. People ask, we were doing the celebration for the 100th anniversary of World War I, and they said we have to remember to talk about the Air Force's contribution. And the answer is there was no Air Force contribution to World War I. There was no Air Force. And to come to think of it, there wasn't one in World War II either.
Jackie, we want to thank you so much for being with us today on Mission Park Cares, and we also want to thank you for your service, for everything that you've done for our community, and to have all this incredible wealth of knowledge about this facility. I mean, I just can't wait to be able to tell more and more people about this facility and the history that's here. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We appreciate everything you do.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming to visit.